Thanks, Rajul. Reimagining is a big charge, and I'm not sure that I'm capable of doing that at this stage. But let me make 5 big points from my side. First, I'd like to start with a comment that the Prime Minister made in his opening speech, where he said agriculture is necessary, although not sufficient, for nutrition improvement. And I think that's really a very important starting point for us to think through. We know historically that agriculture has been an engine of growth. We know historically that smallholder productivity growth has led to rising income, increased demand for diversity of diets, increased demand for nutrition improvements, etc. And that's something which the agriculture community has been very comfortable looking at. The nutrition community has said, well, yes, but we still see very high levels of malnutrition. And one thing that I think we can look at as we look at the data and look at it in a disaggregated way is that where you see very high levels of malnutrition are also areas where agriculture productivity is very low. Eastern India, for example, much of sub-Saharan Africa, for example. So as we think about how we should work together, we should not lose the perspective that agriculture continues to be a necessary first step. While investing in agriculture, we should also be looking at complementary investments that need to take place. Water and sanitation, necessarily, literacy, especially for women, gender empowerment, etc. You need all of these complementary investments, but we should keep our eye focused on the trigger that agriculture productivity growth has on enhancing overall incomes and triggering high growth rates in economic growth. The second issue that I'd like to bring up is that much of the past experience with agriculture productivity growth has had a crop bias to it. It's had a bias of a rice crop or a wheat crop or a maize crop, that much of the agriculture policy was targeted towards increasing the productivity of these crops. And when that happens, what results from that is you begin to see a crowding out of the non-staple crops. You begin to see a crowding out of fruits and vegetables and legumes and livestock and all of that. And the relative prices of the non-staple food rises quite dramatically. And I think the challenge as we look ahead is how do you create agriculture productivity growth without a crop bias? So how do you create policies that promote intensification but that are crop neutral? And I think that's a challenge that we as a community have not picked on, and I think that's something we should be thinking about. The third point is, as we see incomes rise, as we see middle class growth taking place, there's an enormous increase in demand for diversity, diet diversity, fruits, vegetables, milk, meat, etc. But what puzzles me is that the supply responsiveness is very, very low. And so you have very high demand, but the supply responsiveness is low. And there are many reasons for that. One of the reasons is the policy disincentives that I talked about earlier. Much of the policy environment discriminates essentially against the crops, the micronutrient-rich crops, the crops that supply diet diversity. That's one issue. But then structurally, there's a huge impediments also. Market development, storage systems, better supply systems for bringing fresh vegetables to markets, information systems, etc. And there's a lot of investments that need to be made in order to remove many of these supply impediments. There's a lot that needs to be made to encourage the private sector to move into these areas and to work with smallholders in promoting the supply of micronutrient-rich grain. The fourth area is food safety, and Rob Bertram brought this up earlier. Food safety is not just a trade issue. Food safety is an issue that has direct impacts on nutrition. If you take any foodborne diseases, if you take mycotoxins, aflatoxin, etc., when food is contaminated with these pathogens, you do see fairly adverse nutrition uptake impacts, and you do see chronic diseases that result from that. The work of IFPRI on aflatoxin, for example, shows that because of aflatoxin contamination in maize and peanuts, about 36 million dalis per year are lost in Africa. That's an enormous loss of human capacity to be able to be productive. And I think mycotoxins and any other foodborne diseases require us to look at them urgently in terms of how do we deal with them, how do we respond to creating a more safe food environment for the people who eat the food as much as for the trade that needs to take place. Last comment. Last comment is on data. There's a lot of talk about impact assessment. There's a lot of talk about metrics in this meeting. And I subscribe to all of that as an economist. But what I really think is a big, big gap is we actually don't have the data to be able to do any of the analysis that we are talking about here. We don't have the data to be able to say agriculture contributes directly to nutrition improvement. We don't have the data to say people with better nutrition are more productive. We don't even have the basic data to say where are the hungry people, where are the malnourished people, what kind of interventions will help reduce malnutrition, what's the pathway to get to reductions in malnutrition. There's an enormous, enormous amount of effort that needs to be made in better data systems, household level data, panel data, district level data, etc. This is an area that I can't stop talking about. We need a lot of investment in this area. I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.